Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan Sports Channel. I'm your host, Andrew Barnes, and we will be recapping our Detroit sports from this past week, looking at Michigan and Michigan State basketball and football to see what updates we have there as well. We're going to start with the positive. The Detroit Tigers. Last year, they were the team that gave us all hope, a team that was kind of written off towards the end of the year, 8 games or so under 500, and all of a sudden went on that tear, made it to the playoffs, beat the Astros, took the Cleveland Indians, or Guardians, to Game 5, and now they look better, I think, than they did even at the end of last year. We'll talk about a few reasons why. So at this exact moment, Detroit is 13-8. They are riding a 3-game win streak against Kansas City, and this afternoon, the 20th, happy Easter, everybody. They are taking on the Royals one more time, looking for the 4-game sweep. Skubal is on the mound, so there's a good chance that could happen. But at the moment, again, they are 13-8. Big news. We knew the biggest news, or you probably already could guess it. Spencer Torkelson, the former number 1 pick. He is playing like a number 1 pick. We've seen those glimpses of power, especially in the past. The average was always something that was low, and it looks like an offseason tweak, a little fire lit under him, has finally done the trick. There's that old adage in sports, right, when you have to do what you've got to do. It looked like he might be on his way out. Gleyber Torres comes in. Colt Keith starts taking reps at first base. It looked like Spencer Torkelson was going to not even make the opening day roster. He tweaks his swing. He loosens up a little bit. He has a new approach, and all of a sudden, he has been the best bat in the Tigers lineup. And so the Tigers, whatever they did, to light that fire under him again by bringing those guys in, it worked. He's got a 289 average. On-base percentage is 391. His slugging is 658. He's got 7 home runs, 21 RBIs, and just yesterday against the Royals, they won 3-1. 3 RBIs from a Spencer Torkelson home run. If he can continue to play at this level, or even close to this level, batting average around 280, the slugging percentage around 650, the on-base percentage around, even if it's 380, those home runs, those RBIs, if he can get up to that 30-plus home run mark, this can be a franchise-changing player, as we thought and hoped when the Tigers drafted him number 1. We know with the MLB draft, it's very much unlike any other drafts, very swing and miss. You never, no pun intended, you really never know what's going to happen with these guys. It's tough to evaluate baseball, all the sports, but Torkelson seems to be finally putting it together. And I know as a Tigers fan, I am super excited to see and continue to see what he's been doing, and hopefully you've been able to do the same. Newcomer Gleyber Torres, batting over 300, had some injuries to start the year, but he looks like a good pickup. Kerry Bonds Carpenter, one of the keys to late last season, 292 average, 5 home runs to begin the year. Another newcomer, or relatively newcomer, our catcher, Dylan Dingler, batting over 300 at the moment. Jake Rogers, the starting catcher, is out injured. Dingler has taken his place, and man, what a job that he is doing to start the year. If he can continue to bat well, again, now you've got those 3 guys, Torkelson, Torres, Dingler, not really part of the everyday lineup last year, or in Torkelson's case, not the same player. That's huge for the offense that struggled, obviously, again last year. Riley Green, to this point, has struggled a little bit. Yesterday, he was 0 for 4, but the 2 games ahead with the Royals, he was having 3 hits, several RBIs, broke out of a big slump. And so if Riley Green can get back to what he looked like last year, we're looking at really a new offense. And Colt Keith is another big one. He's in a really big slump right now, not playing overly well defensively either. And so he's somebody who we'll look to see if he spends some time in Toledo. But for now, hopefully, it's early. He's very young. He can snap out of this slump. And if he gets going, talk about, Matt Vealing and Parker Meadows when they come back from injury. Of course, Parker Meadows and Matt Vealing, really 2 big bats that started that renaissance last year at the last 2 months of the season. This Tigers team should win the AL Central. They're definitely going to compete for it. And like they did last year, they were winning playoff series with really almost no starting pitchers, because that's the big thing we're going to get to next, the starting rotation. 4 of the 5 starters in the Tigers rotation have a sub-3 ERA. And if you think of where they were last year in the playoffs, Skubal was really the only starter playing. We went bullpen almost every other time. So Skubal, he takes the mound today against the Royals, makes us believe the Tigers will end up 14-8 by the time today is over. Skubal's got a 2.66 ERA. He's going to continue to do what only he can do. He's a fun guy to watch. He gets fired up, and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Jack Flaherty, we've got him back. He's got a 2.53 ERA. He is having a great start to the season. That lefty-righty combo, the 1-2 punch, it's great to see back. Jackson Jobe, the rookie, the newcomer. Last year, of course, we saw him in the playoffs and the end of the year out of the bullpen. He's got a 2.70 ERA, and so he is even a sub-3 ERA for the rookie. If he can continue to do that and improve and go deeper into games, what a huge addition the rookie will be. And then, of course, the big news, Casey Mize is back, the other former number 1 pick. The other one written off, injuries, different things with him. He actually leads the team at 2.22 ERA currently. Wow. So if you look at guys, Flaherty being back, Mize having the season he's having, Jobe having the season he's having, we've got 3 high caliber right now starting pitchers in the rotation with Artie Skubal, one of the best, if not the best pitcher in baseball. Wow. And we already know what the bullpen can do. And then Reese Olson, he has a 4.5 ERA right now. However, his last start against the Royals at Kansas City, he had a scoreless outing. And so he's getting back on track. And if this starting 5 can continue to do what they're doing and Olson can improve, this Tigers team is going to be dangerous. When they get those guys back from injuries, other guys stepping up, it's an exciting time to be a Tigers fan. We went so many years with so many of the Detroit teams doing nothing, and the Lions of all teams started the renaissance right that we're in right now, and the Tigers last year added right behind them. And so Tigers fans, keep watching, keep enjoying. They are doing awesome, awesome work. Again, 13-8 at the moment, and we'll see in this next week what they continue to do. What are the Lions going to do? It's a different kind of draft season starting last year and this year for us Lions fans. Normally, we're picking top 10, we're picking top 5, top 2, where we're looking at the top talent in the draft, wondering who we're going to get and putting all our chips in the draft and wondering free agency what's going on. And now things are different. Now that the Lions these last 2 years, the success that they've had, again, we're picking later in the draft. And so the options are we going to trade up again? Are we going to trade back? What is Brad Holmes going to do? The Lions going to get help across from Aiden Hutchinson. Zadarius Smith is still available. I think a lot of us would like to see him back. I think even with him back, we could still get some draft help, of course, along that defensive line. But we know we're in a great spot. Lions fans, we've never been in this before. Last year with their regular season high in wins, right? Those 15 wins, of course, a very disappointing first round. Well, technically, they got the bye, but losing their first game against Washington, we knew the injuries were going to catch up. The defense was decimated, and it was unfortunate. But if you look at just the roster, we have a roster that can compete and win a Super Bowl. I truly believe that. And we've really, if we look at the offseason, the things that we've lost, we did lose, right, Carlton Davis. However, DJ Reed, right? We signed DJ Reed, who, when you look across the board of the things that they do, very, very similar. Doesn't look like a downgrade, could possibly be an upgrade. So DJ Reed fitting in that slot, right? Terrion Arnold, no longer a rookie. We know, especially at corner, those rookie years are difficult. Had a decent year last year, especially the second half. And so he looks like if he can take another step forward, the secondary could be great again and should be. And so we look back again, all the guys returning, Derek Barnes, who was out basically all year, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously the big one coming back. The defense, when healthy at the beginning of the year, they're playing very well. Now we know the questions are with Aaron Glenn gone, Ben Johnson gone, how are the new coordinators going to do? We'll get to that later as we get more into the offseason. But I'm curious to see, who do you want? What do you think of the Lions free agency? What are you thinking about the draft? We'll do a more in-depth draft preview here in a few days before the draft, and then, of course, recap it. I'm hoping, of course, Kevin Zeitler, right, our guard, the big loss that we haven't replaced yet, although it looks like some of the guys that we drafted last year, those rookie guards, maybe the Lions looking and seeing maybe what we're not seeing and thinking, hey, those guys can step up. So it would seem right now, looking at the Lions roster, we're looking at the interior of the offensive line, we're looking at the ends for the defense as probably the biggest needs. But again, the Lions, when you've got Brad Holmes, you got Dan Campbell, they are drafting best available. That's what good teams do. They're not reaching for a need. They've got a great roster. So any talent anywhere that's added, like we traded up with Jahmyr Gibbs, a lot of people question that. A lot of Lions fans question that, and look how great he turned out to be. Wow, looking a little bit like Barry Sanders last year. That 1-2 punch with David Montgomery still there. Jared Goff, St. Brown, Jameson Williams took a huge step forward. Although, we'll talk, there's a speculation now that he might be traded. But again, hey, Brad Holmes just traded up for the guy not too long ago. So we'll see what happens there. But exciting times for Lions fans. When you got Brad Holmes, when you got Dan Campbell, despite all the other coaches' losses, I really think the Lions are going to be just fine and looking to be as good as they've been, maybe even better, right, than last year if we can keep healthy. So we're excited. I'm looking at those needs on the line. That's when Brad Holmes, right, they came in, getting Hutchinson, getting Penei Sewell, those guys being franchise game changers. The line, it matters. It's not the flashiest all the time, especially the offensive line. But, hey, the way the Lions run trick plays, who knows? So I'm excited. It's a great time to be a Lions fan. Wherever you are, whatever you think about this offseason so far, remember, great teams always have underwhelming free agencies because they keep their guys for the most part when they can, and then you've got to pay guys in the future to keep them there. So those days where we won free agency like the Bears the last couple years, and then they still ended up being terrible, like we were still terrible. So remember, Lions fans, we don't have to get flashy anymore. If we trust Brad Holmes to keep drafting like he's drafting, Dan Campbell setting the culture. I'm excited for that. We've also got the Red Wings. The Red Wings we'll have as another part of that video later this week. They just ended their season this past week. Disappointing is really the only word that probably comes to mind. They're still a far cry away, 9 straight seasons now, not even in the playoffs after 20-plus straight years. They were the class of the NHL. They were the class of any major sport, and it's been a struggle. So can we continue to trust in Steve Yzerman? The coaching change with McLennan seemed to work for a while, but after, of course, the Four Nations face-off, the Red Wings, like they did at the last month of last year, they struggled. Once teams are now fighting for a playoff spot, once it starts to get difficult and games get more intense, the Red Wings the last 2 years, unfortunately, have shrunk. Still a young roster, still good additions that Steve Yzerman has done. We'll look at the Yzer plan, if you will, and see what's going to happen. Some even are calling for his job this year. It doesn't seem like that's probably going to happen, but we will, again, talk about the Red Wings, review their season, see where they went wrong, a step back offensively, especially this year. If you compare their goals scored last year to this year, defensive problems still reign, and we'll see, did the young guys take a step forward, or were they kind of in the same boat as they've been? So, again, we'll be recapping the Lions draft before it happens this next week and looking at the Red Wings season in review. All right, that takes us forward to the Michigan State basketball college sports. Michigan State basketball. We'll start with Michigan State. So far, their off-season, Jace Richardson, of course, declared for the NBA draft. Huge loss for Michigan State. Clearly, what he turned out in the second half of the year is their best player. Offensively, of course, really carried the team when they needed him. And somebody who wouldn't have thought he'd be one and done, but he had such a great second half of the year, the talent being there. He is projected to be a lottery pick. So for those of us like myself hoping Jace Richardson, maybe he would declare and come back, it seems pretty unlikely that Jace Richardson is going to be back. Trey Holloman was the surprise one. Trey Holloman, and let me know what you think about, the transfer portal, NIL, things like that. But he's one that was a surprise. Somebody who really seemed like the heart and soul, along with Jaden Atkins, right, of Michigan State, defending, of course, midcourt with the seniors kissing the floor, the Michigan players standing in the way, or I guess just depending on what side you're on, they were either standing in the way intentionally to start something, or it's their right to be able to stand there. He, of course, is on his way out, just transferred this week to NC State. It seems like it's less about NIL or money and more about the fact that he is wanting to play the point guard position, wanting to play the position that Jeremy Fears has for Michigan State. but it comes into question, right? My view of the NIL side, I think it's a good thing, although there should probably be some regulations. We'll get to that at some point. But the transfer portal, I think the biggest problem is being able to have unlimited transfers, not being able to sit out. I do think there should be a level of it for players not to be stuck, but man, to just be able to go whenever you want to go. The hard part with the transfer portal, right, and the NIL when it comes to college sports is that some of your favorite players, some of the guys that you wanted to see those years through, it's not going to happen. In college basketball, there's always been a level to that of, again, guys like Jace Richardson who have that NBA talent, who are always the one-and-doners, but for the Trey Hollimans of the world, that if we've grown accustomed to seeing, they're staying at the university. They're staying at Michigan or Michigan State all 4 years. That seems to possibly be a thing of the past. With the transfer portal, we know with Tom Izzo, he doesn't want to pay big money. He's not going to and hasn't brought in guys from big schools, so some mid-major pickups again. Caleb Glenn, the 6'7" small forward from Florida Atlantic, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 41% from 3. A junior, we'll see. They played Michigan State this year. He didn't really do super well, and so the question obviously always becomes with these mid-majors is, are they going to be able, when they get now to the Big Ten level, is he going to be able to produce? And we'll see. We saw with Fiddler this year at Michigan State, he kind of was up and down, not obviously as good as he was when he was at Omaha. And so 2 years, though, remaining. He fills a big need at that size, kind of replacing Atkins again. The size on the wing is something that Michigan State didn't really have as well this year, outside of Cohen Carr, who we know is working on that three-point shot, but not quite there yet. Trey Fort, 14 points, 38% from 3. Sanford was the addition this week, the guard, presumably the one who will take Trey Holliman's spot. This guy is taking full advantage of the transfer portal. His 6th team now in 6 years. He's a super senior. It'll be his last year in college. Weird guy to see probably kiss the Spartan logo at the end of next year after one season. But Trey Fort, and again, another one. We'll see. He's been at small schools. He's been at big schools, performed much better at small schools. So the question becomes, can he bring what he did last year to the Big Ten when obviously the competition is much stiffer? Is he going to be able to do that? So Michigan State basketball, a lot of questions right now going into the offseason. Not a lot of hope right now probably from Spartan fans, but we still have years to go. Tom Izzo is still Tom Izzo regardless of what you feel about him. He's a culture-first guy. He looked at it, and what he did worked. He didn't want to go out and get big names from the portal last year. I thought it was going to be a mistake, and yet because he had the buy-in and the culture, he said that's what makes the program go. Obviously, you are going to need some top-level talent at some point to really make that final push, and we'll see in the years to come. Izzo's probably only so many years left to see what is going to happen there. Michigan basketball, they've got big changes. Their top 3 players, Danny Wolf just declared for the draft this week. Vlad, the big center, he's out of eligibility, so he's on to the NBA. And then Trey Donaldson, the guard, he hit the transfer portal and surprised probably a lot of Michigan fans. And so those 3 guys, especially, of course, the 2 7-footers, what a great year they had. Michigan with Dusty May had a much better year than many thought, just like Michigan State. But now they've got a lot of changes. We know with the transfer portal with Michigan, they're willing to go anywhere. They're willing to spend big money on basketball, football, all the things. Elliot Cadu, 9.4 points, 6 rebounds, a junior from North Carolina, so 2 years remaining for him. They grabbed Morris Johnson Jr., 7-7 at Illinois, a sophomore. So those 2 guys coming from North Carolina, coming from Illinois, seemingly an easy transition. One already in the Big Ten, one in the ACC. Not really a talent barrier for them entering, and so that's going to be more of a chemistry of how they're used now on a new team for Michigan. But then their big addition from the transfer portal, Yaxel Lendenberg, if that's how you say his name, 6'9", 230-pound forward. He averaged 17, 11, 4 assists, 1.7 steals, 1.8 blocks last season for the UAB Blazers. Shot 52% from the field, 35% from 3. 2 seasons of college eligibility remaining. He was seen as the top transfer portal target at one point. So, guy who's played super well. Looks like those things are be able to translate. Looks like he can be the one to take kind of Danny Wolf, Vlad's spot and be Michigan's best players. But again, the question is, coming from a smaller program, will they those numbers translate in the exact same way? we will see. I know either way, whatever side you root for, anytime Michigan State and Michigan are good at basketball, top-ranked teams going far in the tournament like they were last year, that's good for the state. So let's hope with all the changes, both of these programs are able to continue to be competitive, and Tom Izzo and Dusty May are able to continue to do well. All right, now we're going to move on to the football side of things. Obviously, we're in the spring, we're in the offseason, so not a ton of things to talk about just yet. Michigan State football electing not to host a spring game, very much probably transfer portal related. The big question for Michigan State is just going to be all over the offense. The biggest guys looking at, of course, we can talk about the offensive line. The run game wasn't great last year, but we're looking at Aiden Childs, Nick Marsh, Jack Velling. Those three in the passing game. Aiden Childs' growth now. Nick Marsh coming off a great freshman year. Jack Velling kind of a step down from his year at Oregon State. The question is, are those three guys going to be able to gel? They need the run game. They're going to have new running backs. They need the offensive line, some transfers there to help. But Michigan State, if they're going to get back to being successful as they haven't been in the last few years, they're going to need those guys to step up. And we'll see. Aiden Childs showed flashes. He shows the talent, but he also showed a lot of turnovers, indecision, not being able to be good later in games, ball security. He showed his youth, right? Physically, he's not a huge guy, so if he maybe can add some level there, showing more of a threat, I think, with his legs would open up the offense for Michigan State. But that's going to be the big question for Jonathan Smith and co. in year number 2. It feels like it's been forever since Michigan State has had a good football team, all the way back, of course, to the year that Kenneth Walker seemed to save the program, getting that year back. But hopefully Michigan State's able to turn it around, but those are the questions. Can Aiden Childs develop into the kind of prospect that he was rated, right? And you never really know, but this year is going to probably determine his future at Michigan State and a lot of different things that are going to happen. So find Nick Marsh, find Jack Velling, find those weapons. Hopefully Michigan State offense will put it together. Again, Michigan, the big question for Michigan football is the offense. We know the $10 million man, it's Bryce Underwood. He is the one in question. Again, Michigan spares no expense. They've got donors. They've got people. They are going to pay to get the best players on basketball, football. Of course, Trey McKinney on the basketball side. But Bryce Underwood, we're going to see. True freshman, quarterback. Don't normally play, don't normally start. However, we've seen the success happen before. Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts are the recent ones in history. And what really helps Bryce Underwood is physically, right? He's 6'4", 210 pounds. He looks physically ready. And so, Michigan just held their spring game. He was 12 of 25, 187 yards. 88 of those came on a trick play to end the spring game. So, didn't look overly great with the rest of the offense, but again, it's a spring game. You're feeling each other out. You've been practicing against each other a lot, so not a lot of surprises for a defense. So we'll see. But he got out, he got loose, he played a lot of snaps. We're going to see what's going to happen. Will he be named the day one starter? Are they going to bring him along? But again, Michigan, right? Did not a great year last year, but they did beat Ohio State. They had some good things, but it was the offense. Very similar to Michigan State, that just the offenses just weren't great. And Michigan's offense really didn't even have a quarterback, it seemed, half the time last year. So we're going to see Bryce Underwood. Is he going to beat out Jaden Davis and Mikey Keene? Well, we'll see. I think a lot of Michigan fans are itching and wanting to see him. Obviously, we'll see with NIL and the money that he's getting. Does that mean that Michigan almost has to push him to start even if they don't feel like he's ready? We will see. Those are going to be the questions now when we see these guys making this big money deal, right? So Bryce Underwood, Belleville, we're going to see, hey, is that guy going to play? All I can say is this. It's been a few years since Michigan and Michigan State both had successful seasons at the same time. And we know that makes a huge difference in the state of Michigan, rivalry week. It just makes things matter so much more when both teams are successful. So hopefully both, coaches heading into year 2 with some young talent, hopefully both Michigan State and Michigan will have much more successful seasons as we go forward. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with football in the future, hopefully for Michigan and Michigan State. Last but not least, last night, the Detroit Pistons took on the New York Knicks in game 1 of their playoff series. And before we get into that, because we know it wasn't the most exciting result, we've got to be happy to be Pistons fans. The Pistons are the team, the 2004 Pistons are, when I was very young, not really into watching sports yet, they were the first team that I watched. I saw a preview for the Lakers versus Pistons NBA Finals. I had heard of the Lakers, so I said, oh, we have a Detroit team. I should support them. So that team made me fall in love with sports. So the Pistons, despite what the NBA becomes, and a lot of people obviously tuning off, a lot of different things happening, which is understandable, the Pistons are always going to have a special place in my heart, and they have been terrible for the last decade. So regardless of how this playoff series worked out, Pistons fans, we got to be happy. They gave us a reason to finally watch again after having one of the worst seasons, really those last 2 seasons combined, some of the worst basketball that could ever happen. They made the changes. What a job JB has done, taking over Monty Williams, who never really wanted to be there. Obviously, that showed. And then they brought in, of course, replacing the GM, Troy Weaver, and his tanking is gone. And Trajan Langdon, I don't know if I said his name right, but coming in from the Pelicans and actually adding veterans. That's the difference. The Pistons, with their young talent developing, actually have veterans. Cade Cunningham has been awesome. He has really turned it around, but the guys Malik Beasley, Tobias, Tim Hardaway Jr., they have been able to do as well as they have, even with Jaden Ivey out most of this year. People forget Jaden Ivey was averaging 18 points. He was shooting 40% from 3. He was the clear number 2 option, and yet the Pistons were still the 6th seed. So imagine if they can run it back next year, if he can be back healthy and keep doing what he's doing, how good they're going to be. So when it comes to the Pistons, Knicks, game 1, it was a bit predictable from a young team, a young star playing in New York. Cade Cunningham struggled. The Knicks were blitzing him. OG was on him. They were switching on him off the screens, not letting Cade get comfortable. He struggled. He ends up with 21 points. The 12 assists. So the stat line looks okay, but a lot of those points came after the big 21-0 fourth quarter run by the Knicks that really put the game away. The Pistons clawed their way back a little bit, but couldn't do it. So I thought that would be the key. I figured for Cade Cunningham, he would get off to a slow start. He's never been in the playoffs. He's very young. And when the Knicks, being a good defensive team, knowing what he has around him not having a very at least clear number 2 that he's going to get blitzed, right? We saw that happen with the Bucks going down, Giannis getting blitzed with no Damian Lillard. And so Cade Cunningham, it's going to be a difficult series, but hopefully he's able to bounce back. The good news is they got what they needed from the veterans. Beasley, 20 points. Tobias Harris, we know, had 22 in the first half. Could have used a little bit more than only 3 in the second half. Tim Hardaway Jr. also 19 points. All of them shot really well from 3. Schroeder did some good things running the second half of the offense, but that's what they need. If Malik, Tobias, and Tim Hardaway can shoot very well and can help Cade out when he's getting blitzed, and if Cade can step up, the Pistons are going to have a shot. I really thought Tobias was going to be one of the big keys because he becomes the clear number 2, and he led us in scoring. He was the reason we were in it in the first half. And then they built momentum, of course. The Pistons, man, all the way through 3 quarters playing really well. But that 21-0 run by the Knicks in the fourth, that's playoff basketball. You can't play 3 good quarters and expect to win in the playoffs. You're playing a good team. And the Knicks showed kind of their veteran prowess. Jalen Brunson, who struggled in the first half, comes alive in the fourth. Karl-Anthony Towns shoots well. At the end of the day, the Pistons need Malik, Tobias, and Tim to do what they did, and they're going to need Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, who was almost non-existent. Those 2 are going to have to step up. Duren only 25 minutes, 7 points, 3 assists, 6 rebounds. He's going to have to play a whole lot better. Guarding Karl-Anthony Towns could be difficult, but Cunningham and Duren, that connection has been such a driving force for the offense. They're going to need to figure that one out again. If Beasley, Harris, and Hardaway can shoot that 3, they're going to find themselves in a series. Tomorrow, game 2, Pistons, Knicks. I still have faith. Either way, tripling their win total from last year. It's been so awesome to see Cade, a true star. We haven't had one since really Blake Griffin for that 1 year before he got injured. And then before that, It's been a really long time. You have to really go back to the Ben Walsh, Chauncey Billups, Rasheed, all of those guys. So it's been a long time since we've had someone of his caliber. So Pistons fans, don't worry. The best days are ahead. I still think they're going to fight through this series. The defense, of course, is going to need to improve defensively. They weren't great either, especially again. They're in the game, right? They lose the game by 11. Despite the 21-0 run, they were leading in the fourth. So got to win the fourth quarters. That's what's going to make the difference in the playoffs. But we'll see as the Pistons go forward. I'm excited. Again, the Pistons are what made me fall in love with sports. This year, they're finally back. So regardless of what you think of NBA basketball nowadays, Pistons fans, tune in and watch. We get to watch them one more time again tomorrow play in New York, and we just might see a different result. I'm excited for Detroit sports. We seem to be in a renaissance. The Red Wings are the only ones who can't quite hold up their end. But of course, the other three being in the playoffs, being competitive, the Pistons turn around, the Tigers looking like they're going to win. They're definitely competing for an AL Central. The Lions, of course, 15 wins last year. We just got exciting times after it seemed like every single one of them for a decade were just terrible. And so it's a great time to be a sports fan in the state of Michigan. Again, later this week on the Michigan Sports Channel, we are going to be talking about the Lions NFL draft preview and looking over the season for the Detroit Red Wings. So tune in for that. The draft again coming up just in this next week. Thank you again for watching the Michigan Sports Channel. My name is Andrew Barnes, your host. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on here again soon.